You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. I dare you to keep up with today's conversation. I could barely do it myself. I have former McDowell County Commissioner Andy Webb, longtime real estate professional, banking, insights on so many things. Buckle up, friends. You're going to enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side.
There you go, ma'am.
Here it goes. Yeah, sorry.
Good morning, Leigh Brown. How are you? young
Decided
lady?
to reboot, and I couldn't get it to log
Yeah.
in. So
I'm sorry. I've been working on this intensely to try to make sure that I want to be ready for this sweet girl, and I blew it. So
I
excuse
mean,
me.
but your camera's working. You were on time. I was late, and now your sound works. So I think you checked all the boxes,
Okay.
Andy.
Well, how are you, Miss Leigh Brown?
I'm fantastic. I hope you are.
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing very well, and I appreciate your sweet smile. Yes.
Well, I appreciate
We're
you.
gonna have some fun. Hey, we're gonna have some fun together today. I'm not your ordinary guy, and I think you heard that.
Well, that's why you're here. That's what my listeners like. That's what my viewers like. And frankly, I'm just glad to have somebody else on with a Southern accent, so I don't have to feel like the outcast.
Oh God, you're crazy.
Okay, well,
Anyway, so I could talk some stuff, but I am a gentleman, and you introduced. This is your podcast, so I just you lead the way, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
well, I mean, we're wrapping up season 11 now, so I've been doing this long enough that my guests have watched my hair go through different iterations, and so they've hung out with me for a long time, and they also have watched us go from, let's see, we started the show 11 years ago at the end of the Great Recession, and we've gone.
Oh my gosh, I remember the Great Recession. Yes, ma'am.
And when I started the show, Zoom wasn't a thing, and now everybody has Zoom. So I think that you should tell them, because they've not met you before, tell them who Andy Webb is, where are you located, when did you get your license, because that's part of the reason I want you to come on the show. You've got a lot of perspective.
Well,
So introduce yourself.
well, this is pretty cool because I was at the end of a first year student at Asheville Buncombe Tech, and they said, as a marketing major, we're going to add to the curriculum a real estate course. Well, I wasn't really sure about that, and I said, okay. And that's the hardest, most challenging course I ever took in my life. But I had a great instructor, and he helped me pass the course. Then I drove to Raleigh and stood in front of Jay Blanton Little. Well, at that point, he was the man, and passed that course as a broker first time. Now, for people that went back in the day, understood there's a difference in broker's license and a different subsequent license. It was a big deal. And I passed that course. And but I came as a banker. I came out of college, went to work for Northwestern Bank out of, he was a sheep farmer out of Ashe County, North Carolina, and full of money, smart as a whip. And he opened up 50 some branches from Murphy, North Carolina, all the way down to past Raleigh. And I got to work for him about 5 years, and it was some of the greatest understanding of common sense, economics, and people principles. And then I went to work for myself. I became an entrepreneur and did that 34 years. So I had a great background and understanding that I needed to have that. And there were a lot of disappointments in people, but then I learned how to manage and said, this is how life works. And I built some wonderful, great relationships with men and ladies that had very strong businesses, very small business, and were very successful, far beyond me. So that's a little bit about who I am.
All right. So, what year was it that you got your real estate license? Because I can tell you right now, the young people today do not know that there was a time when you took your class in person, and then to take the exam, you had to ride to Raleigh to do it because it was all on pencil and paper with a clock at the front of the room. So, what year was that?
Oh, wow. You know about oh god. They put us in a air-conditioned room. I could not hardly Leah could not even hardly write down my answers. I was so cold in that class. 1976.
Hey,
It
not
was
everybody
fall.
had air conditioning back then, Andy. It's not like it is now, where everywhere you go, you're cooled off. Our house didn't have air conditioning. I'd have been shocked by it.
Well, right, but this is government.
Well,
Come
that's
on,
true.
girl. This
They
is
always
government.
get the best.
And that I think they were trying to challenge us in every way they could, or at least in my mind, to make sure that we would not fail, that we would succeed. And that's the difference in life. This is not about failure. This is about succeeding. And you are a prime example of that, woman.
So back in 76, now, if you failed the test, would you have to take the class again and then ride back to Raleigh? Did you get 2 passes at it? How did it work
Mhm.
then?
Guess what? Oh, country boy Andy didn't even know. I drove in there to win, and I had a great friend that was a student and a friend of mine at NC State, and I spent the weekend there and passed that damn test. That's all I can tell you.
So
I was
basically,
determined to
you couldn't
pass
go
that
back to
test.
your mom and daddy because they were gonna
Well,
hear about you failing that test.
well, no. My pride said, "Ain't gonna happen." And then I went back as a banker and said that I passed that real estate exam, and you better stop and think about. I didn't fall off the turnip truck like you. I didn't fall off the turnip truck.
And it is kind of funny that people discount our brains because we have an accent, but they don't know. It's funny.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, I admire you so much because it is really it's about what we do and how we prepare and the determination really is what this is all about. I was so determined that I was going to pass this course at AB Tech. I was going to graduate there, and I did. I got a job at the last day of my classes with Northwestern Bank, and I became a banker there. I worked for them 5 years. I got so frustrated with banking, I had to get excuse my French, the hell out of there.
Now I'm kind of my brain's kind of thinking about what we've lost as a society, that people don't seem to have that kind of determination anymore, because you do see most of the licensees that take it 2 and 3 and 4 times to pass. And not that there's anything wrong with people that have to redo it, but
Right.
if you decide there's no option in failing, you're going to have a different outcome than if you say, well, if I fail, no big deal, I'll try again.
Mhm.
I think we should make it a big deal again. It should be important to
Yeah.
something.
Right, and we do. And I was so fortunate that I didn't have to go back even in many phases of my life. I've had to do that, but on this one I didn't. But Leigh, at that time in little McDowell County, North Carolina, they were 3 real estate brokers. Are you hearing what I'm
Three.
telling you?
Hey, was one of them David Patino? How long's he had his license?
Oh, no,
David?
no, not Dave Patton. No,
He
no,
would but he would
no.
never watch this. He doesn't do
Here,
social media,
no,
so we're
no,
safe.
Dave, no. We're talking about Harry Stone, and I'm trying to remember the guy, and that's the guy I bought the property from. And you ask about the most weird real estate transaction I ever did, and it was about the purchase of my property. And it was a U.S. Treasury agent that walked into the bank at Northwestern in Old Fort, North Carolina, and flashed his badge and said, we're picking up this piece of property, and it's has the company that we had a construction lien on, a construction loan with. They weren't paying us, and it was terribly in arrears. Blah blah blah. I mean, it's a story, but he said we're coming after everything you got with these properties.
Okay.
And Northwestern Bank in Wilkesboro, North Wilkesboro got involved, and they said it was the most complicated real estate transaction they had ever dealt with because you know who they were dealing with? The federal government.
So why did the Treasury think they could take this property?
They have the rights, honey.
Why? For what?
No. Please understand. They have the rights to do anything they want to do. I'm a hell-raising, independent conservative, and they thought they had the right to do that, ma'am.
I'm
And
just sitting here picturing a Treasury agent walking into McDowell County. That's not going to be well received anyway. Flash your badge. That's even less well received for property they think they have rights to. So
well, because they were the federal government, and their rights and responsibilities, or their rights exceeded any other transaction on the planet. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This is where we are, and we've got to change that. And that's the woman you are. You're not going to put up with that bullshit.
I'm just sitting here trying to figure out what their argument was for walking into Old Fort to take that land. Was it tax related or just
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
eminent
I'm
domain?
sorry. Excuse me. I did not make that clear. They had not paid their employer taxes. So they were a company that had employees, and they did not pay and send to the government the employee taxes. And help me to get all that. I'm trying to remember what that's called. But anyway, and
It's
it
called
reached the
theft,
point.
Andy. Just call it theft because taxation is theft.
Yeah, well, but anyway, they weren't paying the 6 point what's it called? You've got employer taxes,
FICA?
you've got FICA and blah 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 back and forth. So they hadn't been paying that, and they were not submitting that. So they went after the assets of the company. Period. And you get that.
So how quickly did he get run off out of town? Because I have a whole image in my head going on right now of this fella being asked to leave quietly.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referring to. Excuse me.
When the Treasury agent flashed his badge,
Oh,
was he asked to leave town?
Well, it went to Northwestern Bank, the corporate office in Wilkesboro, and it became very, very complicated. And my vice president had to deal with it, and the regional vice president, and they ended up settling, like, you know, what happens. You've got, but the bottom line is they were coming after the assets of Northwestern Bank that had a deed that was protected by law, but the government thought that they're going to take Northwestern Bank and they're going to go from a $40,000 asset to nothing. So that's what I'm trying to say.
So
And they had to fight.
what protected that deed by law?
Hmm.
What protected that deed?
Leigh, that's a great question. I really don't have a good answer for that because what I saw in this transaction was that the federal government thought they had the right to supersede every bit of contractual legal law on our planet.
Okay.
Because they were who they were. And I don't have a good answer for that. But they came to negotiation.
Well, the federal government certainly does think they have the right to supersede everything. We've seen that all over Western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene, whether it's the EPA saying you can't clean out your own rivers, or if it's FEMA telling us where we can and can't take supplies, or if it was the flood agencies telling us that an area that had never flooded before in the history of this country is now an unbuilt flood zone. I mean,
Leigh,
it's wild.
I've got some stories that I shared with that I can share with, but I won't online. The devastation and people that I not dealt with, but they came down and said, Andy, I need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Because they carried body bags out.
Mm-hmm.
You hear what I'm saying?
I do.
And FEMA came in, and FEMA, in my opinion, FEMA at that point was this is a conservative area, and but you know what I saw? I saw a helicopter flying around, and there was Donald Trump's daughter and her 10-year-old, you need to hear this one, her 10-year-old son with them on Bills Creek, Rutherford County, North Carolina. And she was surrounding, and she was bringing Starlink satellite dishes in. Yeah, that's what you need to hear.
Well, we had to have those Starlinks. That was the only
Well,
communication.
there's no way. That's no way it would happen. I mean, completely devastated. Without that, people couldn't communicate. They couldn't communicate.
We had the ham operators, but you don't have a whole lot of ham operators, and that's not enough to cover a whole area. And regular people don't have a ham license. And so the Starlink, when it came in from Laura Trump and from Elon Musk and the volunteers that brought it in, changed the game. We could find people.
I will send you pictures of what I have when, what is Don's daughter? What's Donald Trump's daughter name? I get confused. Ivanka. Yeah. She was there. Yeah. She was there, and she was surrounded with Bills Creek Fire Department firefighters are surrounded by her. So yeah, it's pretty close and personal. Yeah.
Well, they came as quickly as they could and had to go around the same federal agencies that I don't think knew what to do. And a lot of people don't know what to do in a crisis, don't know what to do in a disaster, but you could get out of the way. And that's all we had asked of at the beginning of it. Get out of the way.
Do you care if I share my opinion about that?
Go right ahead.
That is why, in my humble belief, as a little peon county commissioner that ran for North Carolina Senate, says you've got to send money back to states and local governments because they know best, period. End of story. Not some 50, 100 people out here that have a federal job and maybe they're well-intentioned, but they don't even have a clue. They don't have a clue, Leigh.
I totally agree. And that's what FEMA should have done the whole time, is just write checks. Here's some money. Here's some resources. Y'all go take care of your people, because we also had to have people that understood the geography, because if you don't have a side-by-side, you weren't going to get to most of our neighbors that were trapped where their bridges and driveways had washed out. And they also have a lack of trust of the government in general. So it took people like you and me to reach them, because they would trust us as neighbors. They're like, well, trust the government.
Yes. And I have learned more about your nonprofit that you're doing, and God bless you.
Oh, well, I got a big team. I have all these people.
Right. Yeah. And that's how it works.
They cropped up from all over the country.
You and Frank and Graham are like, wow.
Well, except my theology is not questionable, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yes.
He won't ever say this, but if he does, Franklin, listen to your daddy. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about.
And he loved to ride a motorcycle. Yeah, maybe he still does.
He should. I mean, I can't. I'm not going to. I have no balance. Even my brother says I shouldn't be riding with him because I'm not stable, but oh well.
So if you're in real estate and you're listening to this podcast or watching it and thinking, man, I need some more Leigh Brown answers in my life. Well, guess what, friends? I have a new program that is launching right now called Answers.Real Estate, where I will give you every bit of insight I have to help you grow your real estate business, help you better respond to consumers, to provide a more excellent real estate experience, so that the next time you land on crazy shit in real estate, you'll have a better solution to whatever you ran into. Answers.Real Estate. There are monthly plans available. You will love it. Get your coaching. Sign up with me today.
All right. So let's just talk about real estate in Western North Carolina.
Yes, ma'am.
After Helene.
Okay. Sure.
The biggest questions that I have, nobody has answers for right now. And that's going to be around surveys, because Andy, we have people, as you know, their land changed forever. The geography looks entirely different.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who owns what at this point, but I do know that if we think back about your situation with that Treasury agent, when people aren't sure, the federal government would love to swoop in and give instruction, and that's not really what the people of Western North Carolina want or need. So what do you think is going to happen next when it comes to the rivers and the corners and where the landslides happen and all the changes?
Think about the difference. And I went through this twice. When the feds came in and they want to give an evaluation that says this is floodplain, this is not floodplain. Sweet girl, I lost my blood pressure when I heard these people come in and they said they were stupid, completely idiots. They didn't have a clue. And we had prominent people that had to bring in surveyors from Louisiana. And I'm not going to tell you their names, but they had to hire high-dollar surveyors and lawyers so their property wouldn't be taken to nothing. It was that bad. So, today I don't have a good answer. And so what I'm hoping for, my hope is that the North Carolina General Assembly and a federal government will say, use common sense and come in, and we're going to have to reassess all these properties because they have been changed. The route of water flow is nothing like we've never seen. This is biblical. We've never seen it. So I don't have a good answer other than just a lot of common sense, period. And don't let the government decide that we know what is best for you, period.
Well, and you on the county commission level, which is to me the most important level of government, is what we do in our own geographic area with our own people, understanding the businesses and the culture. And we know that our county commissions run on property taxes because that's just the way the system
Yes,
has
ma'am.
evolved.
Absolutely. That's
What's
the way
the
it works.
answer
Oh my
when
God.
we can't run people off because their taxes get out of hand, but the county does have to provide services? Where does the balance come in after something like this, Andy? What's your suggestion for your elected commissioners?
Leigh, I saw property values go up in the last 4 or 5 years, and I was blown away. People were moving from other areas of the country, and what was 100,000 piece of property, it was a bidding war. And you're a real estate person, you get it. So what do? Leigh, you're representing a customer, your client. So what do? And so it goes from 125 to 130 or 40. And then at the end of the day, the county comes in and says, here's the value of our property. It's so overvalued. So I don't have a good answer other than pure economics. It says there's got to be a readjustment. There's got to be a readjustment. There has to be saying we got property overvalued. And I don't know how that happens, Leigh. And you make money on commissions, and I love that, and I'm good, and that's how I made my living, but it's just gotten out of control.
Well, it has, and it doesn't seem right that a cash buyer comes in from another area, and now the kids who lived in that county can't afford to buy anything there because those outside cash buyers drove the prices up. And I love North Carolina, and I love that other people see how great we have it and want to move here, but that influx has driven prices. So there is a suggestion that what happens if people have their property values grandfathered in to where they purchased it? So that way, if somebody house 30 years
I don't know what to say about that because I'm a pure believer in supply and demand. I'm a very much a man of that. But Leigh, I'm going to ask you, what do you think? Don't ask me. What in the heck do you think needs to happen?
I mean, I'm torn because I love where we are, and I love being able to tell people moving here it's a great area, because I'm not going to tell them it sucks, go away. That's not true. I love North Carolina.
Right.
But there's a balancing act, and I've seen some counties that have gone to zero growth policies. They don't want not one new person, not one new business, not one new house. And what they don't understand is that when you say no to everything, you're driving your prices up no matter who's
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But then we also see areas like
You're
Mecklenburg
controlling.
and Mecklenburg
Right.
and Wake County will say yes to everything, and so now they
Oh,
see if
God, tell me about those people.
and you have
Oh, my gosh.
there's no green space and you can't handle the traffic and the infrastructure not there. So my brain just says we have to figure out that sometimes you say yes and sometimes you say no. And I would just say that as an example, I was working with the town of Spencer in Rowan County some several years ago when they were
Uh-huh.
to figure out what to do as Chewy was coming in because their headquarters are in Spencer. And as you know, that was the first new employer we'd had in Spencer since 1960. Huge change, but they didn't have enough
Mhm.
houses because of the jobs. But the town itself owned over 60 vacant lots throughout the city,
Uh-huh.
things getting demolished or houses that had been condemned and just empty lots. And so I went to the mayor and the alderman and said, you need to do something with these lots, put some duplexes on them, make them cute, let them fit in,
There you go. Right.
create some housing.
Productivity. Right.
And then you had the angry lady from the Architectural Historic Commission stood up and started to holler in that you can't put that on these lots. It's a historic neighborhood. And I'm thinking, lady, it's a vacant lot and you can put something cute on it. But that's what we struggle with is not
You
enough.
know what they say, Leigh? Opinions are like what? I wouldn't even say that
We're not.
online.
You're gonna be kind because you have to go to church on Sunday. Your pastor may see this, and
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
responsible if you get
bless
accused
his
of
heart.
backsliding.
I got two pastor brothers, and even that's okay. But I'm not going
They're
there.
gonna
But
accuse you of backslide. But it is true that whoever has the loudest opinion in today's world is driving the conversation. So
yeah,
when we go
right.
back to these county commissions and figuring out how do we say yes sometimes and no sometimes, you better have somebody else at the meeting besides that one angry lady because they'll all cave
No,
her.
this is not. No, uh, that's not. The country was not founded on those kind of meetings. They're crazy, and that's why it's called a republic. It is called a republic where we come together and we decide in a matter, and not this ain't no damn democracy. Okay,
See what
forget all
my
that
favorite
stuff drives me nuts. This is not a democracy. This is a republic that was founded, and I have my constitution right
You
beside
got your
me.
sticker like mine. My favorite lawyer in his building next to mine, he hands these out, so I have it on my desk.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, but that's where we are, girlfriend. But we're gonna have to stand strong, and I don't. Maybe our time we're at 11:48, but anyway, um, I want to talk to you. We can raise some hell together. Okay. And I mean that in a way that is good for McDowell County people and Western North Carolina people. But I got a story to tell you about. I'm gonna throw you something out here, a little
Let's
bit of a
go.
line. Do you know Scott Paget?
I do. He was our mayor for 20 years here in Concord. He lives right up the street from my office over here
Why would you think that I know Scott Paget?
because Scott's an independent thinker who really did the best thing for this city, and in his opinion, I didn't always agree with him, but Scott is
Yeah,
agreeable.
he's a good man,
He's
right?
a good guy.
But you know what? This is another subject. Do you remember when the transfer of water out of the Catawba River into your little sweet little area that was overgrowing beyond capacity? Do
I
you
remember
remember?
I remember those fights because the Catawba River keepers did not want so much water coming all the way over to Cabarrus County.
Well, let me tell you about McDowell County people. We didn't either. And I stood there as a county commission chairman, and I went to Rock High School in Valdez, North Carolina, and I listened. I listened to what company was it that was there? Very, very successful, big time. Was it a tobacco company or not? I can't remember, but
He had Philip Morris was here.
Yeah, Philip Morris. Thank you, thank you,
They've
Philip
of course
Morris.
since gone to Richmond and overseas since they got run off out of town.
Oh yeah, well, all that's changed. If I get that too, but sweet girl, we walked outside, and I heard people call us the worst, terrible hillbillies, nothing. It was the wonder that they weren't people shot that night. It was ugly.
Who was doing the hollering? Who was the protest?
Cabarrus County people.
I bet I can name some names, but I will refrain.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but all I'm telling you is it was so disrespectful. They came, are you ready? They wanted 50 million gallons per day pumped out of the Catawba River. It went to court. It got some serious shit, excuse me. And you know what they settled for? And I had to sign this piece of paper, and it was the hardest thing I think I ever did as a county commissioner because the way I saw people were so ugly. 12 million gallons, but they started at 50. But Scott Pageant, I pick up the phone, I said, Scott, and Scott would take my calls. And he's from Rutherford County. Scott's from Rutherford County. He is a former school educator, but Scott was very effective, and he was up there to protect and to grow Cabarrus County. But Cabarrus County was growing so fast, it couldn't happen, and they didn't build the infrastructure, especially in water, to make it happen. I did my homework. I did nothing, and then they wanted to come over to Catawba County and stick a straw in the Catawba River and say, we're going to take the water. So yeah, I raised hell.
Well, and I would just say that's the beginning of the water wars, Andy. I think that's going to be, if I had to use a crystal ball and basically go against the scriptures, because crystal balls are not something we're supposed to use, but
I know.
If I had to look out into the future, the water wars are what are going to cause the biggest headaches in North Carolina and in every other state, because you have to be able to support the growth, and it's water and sewer that are at the heart of that. And
right.
Water is not everywhere naturally. The water naturally occurs in some places.
And you get that. And you're a real estate person, but you see the big picture. That's why I love talking to you. You see the big picture. You need to run for, if you run for governor, I'll send you some money.
Yes, but the GOP doesn't like me that much, Andy.
Why not?
I'm a little too principled for them, and you might have how that operates.
You know what we say? Bless her heart.
Bless her heart. I say I have to pray over them, I guess.
Bless her heart. I don't really give. I really don't care, because I told them years ago, you don't own me. I'm going to be my own man. And that's the lady I think you are. So my hat is off to you.
Well, if our listeners have enough money they want to throw into the kitty, then we could talk. But that's going to be a $100 million race next time around.
Well, yeah, but look what we got. I don't want to use his name, but we got a challenge to unseat a guy that I have no respect for. I won't say no more than that. But
he's not my favorite.
But we have a General Assembly that has a super majority.
Well, no, they don't. They're missing one vote. They did have.
They missing one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
We need somebody to come over to the intelligence.
How about the girl in Charlotte? She walked over. How did we lose that? We lost that
her. She's wonderful. That's Trisha Cotham. She's amazing. I love her. Love her mama. Good for the state, good for her area, good for people.
So we're still missing that supermajority, but
we're missing one. But if we would celebrate good, common sense, intelligent people, we could probably do a lot of things good for North Carolina.
Okay, oh God,
Andy, if anybody wants to,
I've been waiting to talk to you for 3 weeks now, sweetheart, and it's like you are a spark in my life as a little sweet, uneducated elected official. And I look forward to talking to you. Yes.
Well, thank you for coming on the show, y'all. This is Andy Webb. And if you want to reach out to Andy, what's the best way for people to find you if they need to know more about
really
area of your life?
I'm a Facebook guy. I used to do LinkedIn, and the LinkedIn owner is a corrupt man, and I publicly
Yeah.
put him out and said, you're a terrible man, and I will have nothing to do with you again. So that's my little anti-plug for LinkedIn. Yeah, Facebook and Andrew K. Webb 56@gmail.com. And I'll give my phone number. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I won't do that.
Well, don't worry, because all my listeners and viewers, you can find Andy's handles and links in the show notes for this episode. But in the meantime, you can ask a question or pipe up with questions about North Carolina politics, water, sewer, whatever in the comments, and we'll be back. But Andy, thank you for coming on the show. It's always good to spend time chatting with you.
It is my pleasure, and my love to you and God's grace to you each day.
I will take that, and I appreciate it so much. All right, y'all, hit the bell to subscribe, say something in the comments, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
By the way, friends, don't miss my brand new coaching program at answers.realestate, where you can have access to Leigh Brown, submit your questions, have them answered, meet like-minded professionals, have an entire library to help you build your business no matter what happens in the market. Get signed up today. I promise you'll be glad you did. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.